Hi, it's the Brights coming to you live from our studio kitchen.
Welcome, welcome. Glad to be sharing this time with you guys.
Yeah, and we should have just had the video on and seen all the funny faces that we were making.
Adjusting the camera
Adjusting
lights
the
and
cameras,
everything.
yeah.
Here, we'll make
That's
some
right.
for you. No, teasing. How's everybody doing tonight?
Yeah, it's
Glad y'all are
hey,
here.
Misty. The one person we know we can always count on, Misty.
We have our one fan.
When you're a friend, though, I don't think you're a fan. You're just
Okay, we have our
supporter.
one friend. We have our one friend.
Supporter. Yeah, our supporter. So tonight, wait, what did we do this weekend?
I went to a men's
Oh, yeah.
encounter in Dallas. I spoke at a men's encounter in Dallas.
Yes,
It was amazing.
and it was my
a lot of fun.
birthday on Friday, and I wasn't even upset that he went because he was winning souls for the kingdom.
That's right.
And this week is our anniversary, so we have Mother's Day, birthday, and anniversary all within like 8 days or something.
Man, it just,
I had to get one big old gift. That's what
Yeah.
I'm saying.
you did when I said I do.
Hey, Angela. Angie's here on here too. Yeah. What'd you say?
When I said I do, that was the biggest
My
gift.
big gift. Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, you are a gift.
Baby,
You are.
your big project. You said you
I was
always
gonna
like,
say it was
you
more like a
projects.
project. Yes. Hey, Tammy. That's okay. She's anticipating being married one day. That's good. You're learning stuff. I wish I had learned some of this stuff whenever we're still learning stuff now. We're
Amen.
married. So today is how to save your marriage by yourself.
Sounds like fun.
I know people are like, "How about you can't do that? You have to have God. Like you have to have both people." But it got you to watch, didn't it? But you know what? One person can actually be the catalyst to change marriage, so that you can save that.
And I have to say that this is a very true statement because Sherry was the one that did it. She was the one that started the momentum.
Yeah. And so we'll talk about that. So it's possible to change if you're the only one. So even if your spouse is checked out and they're disengaged, they're unplugged, they act like they don't even care anymore, you could actually be the catalyst to change things in your marriage. That one person can do it. Because like our story, like he said. So we tried doing it where we were battling, where I was constantly pointing fingers at him. We were arguing about everything. We did this for years. And eventually, after going to marriage classes and learning some tips and things, I realized that what we were doing wasn't working. So one of us had to change.
And it just seems like we get stuck in that rut of doing the same. And we always hear people say, what's the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over, expecting something different.
Yeah.
That doesn't help anything because we continue to do the same thing over and over and over, and we continue to expect a different result, and it just didn't happen with us. We're in that same rut, that same crazy cycle over and over and over, and we're like, why is nothing changing? We're going to church, we're doing this, but I think we had to have a change of heart and the way we looked at each other and where we thought marriage was. Yeah,
I think we got to the point we were actually going to get divorced, and at that point, part of me was at a point where I really just didn't care anymore. And then I said, well, what do I have to lose? So I'm about to be out, and he was fine with me being out.
Plus
He was
it was your legal limit in Texas.
Yes,
right?
and I was about it at my legal limit in Texas, so because this is my third marriage, and I did not want a third divorce. So I had to figure out what could change. So if you're that one person that's changing in your relationship, because one of the things is when we meet with couples now, one of the first things we ask them is, are you willing to do whatever it takes? And that's usually the thing that will allow us, or not allow us, but that we have kind of a thing between us that if a couple says that, then we're on board to walk it through it with them. But if one person's not wanting to do it, or the other person, it wastes their time and it wastes our time at that point when they're ready to actually get some coaching on their marriage.
Because sometimes when we do that, they're still hurting. So one of them is kind of flinging arrows, and in their heart, their pride probably doesn't let them say that they would do anything. It's kind of like that, I don't know. And this other person's like, yes, I'll do anything to save my marriage. And the other person's like, I don't know. Maybe. I'm not sure.
Done. But they also sometimes don't want to say that they'll do anything because they don't know whatever it takes means.
Right.
So they're like, well, we're willing to do this, but I'm not going to surrender at all. So some people are afraid to say that. So if you're going to be the brave agent in your marriage and want to do something for change, that's something right now that can motivate you for things to be better. So be clear that we're not saying that it doesn't take two to save a marriage.
It does.
Because both of you eventually will have to be on board, and eventually both people will have to do the work. But one person, I know for me being married twice before, the reasons why we got divorced is because of pride. Either one was wanting to work on it and the other wasn't, and then the other was wanting to work on it and then that I wasn't or he wasn't. We never seemed to do it at the same time. And if we had both been on board at the same time to work on our marriage, we could have done it. And we were there too, and we almost,
you know, and I couldn't even imagine if my wife were to come up to me now and say, hey, I think we have some issues in our marriage that we need to work on, and me say, my marriage is fine. If you've got problems with your marriage, maybe you need to go see somebody. I couldn't even imagine talking to my wife like that, because we are so in tune with one another, and I don't ever want to say anything that knocks her down. I don't ever want to belittle her or not let her think that I'm part of this marriage, or that she's in this by herself. I want her to know that I'm walking alongside of her, and that, I want to be a part of the decision-making process. I want to be part of her life. I want to know what's going on. But you know what? There's a time that,
how many years did it take us to
it took years, you know, and they say that, you know, when we teach our pre-marriage class, and you'll hear us say this from time to time, that there's a time in marriage that we stop living as me and selfish, and we will start to live as we for one another. And on average, that only takes 9 to 14 years. Again, there's no applause.
Wow.
You know, crickets. But that's such a true
for us,
statement.
that was so true, because it's really been probably in the last 5 or 6 years that things really started to change and to get to where we could talk about things, or we didn't have pride where both of us were like, I'm not talking to you, I'm going to isolate myself, where it was just this battle of wills. Even though we were teaching marriage classes and we were the marriage people and we were helping other people, we still had a lot of things we had to overcome in our personal life, and we still do, and we're still working on it. And just as soon as we think we are there, then
God reveals something else,
yeah,
and something else. He's always trying to improve us. He's trying to improve our relationship with Him, and He's trying to improve our relationship with each other. And apart from Him, this will never work, you know. And I know that there's people like, they're unbelievers, or they don't believe the same way, and they have a good relationship and a good marriage, and they're like, well, how are they doing it? That's awesome. They're doing it. But what if they did? What if they could take what they have that's good and make it excellent, or make it great?
Supernatural,
you know?
That's what we like to say.
I love supernatural.
So Andrew's saying, how many years did it take you? So like we said, like about 6 years. So on Tuesday of this week, we'll be celebrating 16 years that we've been together. And we count those first 2, even though we weren't legally married, because we moved in together 2 weeks after we knew each other.
That's always a good idea.
Yeah, always a good idea. So we count it, but it took us a lot of years. And we were going to marriage class. We were reading stuff. We were learning.
We were teaching the classes.
Yes, we knew the information, but we weren't doing the work. All right, so if you're that one spouse right now that is willing to be the catalyst of change, you know, wear that proudly. Know what that feels like. That should motivate you to want to go on further and say, you know what, I'm going to be the brave agent of change.
You know what, I'm going to be the spouse that pours into this. I'm not going to believe what the world says about marriage. I'm not going to believe what the world says about my spouse.
Right.
Because what the world says about your spouse is you've picked the wrong one. There's somebody that's going to treat you right. You have a Prince Charming out there that's just waiting to spoil you and take care of you and love on you. And guess what? It's your spouse. It's already, you know, but right now he's still a frog. I was a frog. She had to kiss me over and over and over, even when she didn't want to kiss me.
No.
And
even when I was getting warts from kissing.
And
not those kind of words. That's kind of weird. Okay, what about frogs? Oh, that's really weird.
You're so weird.
We're so
You
real.
always say the weirdest things.
I know, because weird stuff comes from my head. So we're not saying if you're that one spouse that wants to change things, we're not saying that it's all your responsibility. See, they think it's funny. That it's all your responsibility, it's all your fault. Like we said, ultimately, both will have to be on board, and God will have to become part of it. For it to really work, you're going to have to do the work together. God's going to have to be in the center of it. But until that time, you can be the catalyst of change to make things something different.
And I remember that. I remember when Sherry was doing that, and I would come home and I'd be angry and frustrated and mad at her, and she's trying to be kind and she's trying to be sweet, and I'm just trying to pick on her. And she just said, no, I'm not going to do this anymore. That, you know, I'm going to live for our marriage, and I'm gonna make a difference.
So definition of insanity, doing the same thing, we're gonna do something different. So what can you do to do it? So we have 3 tips. 3 easy, not easy. Simple, not easy. None of this is ever easy with marriage, but it's the simple stuff. It's not rocket science.
I like that. He said we have to learn how to divorce the situation and not the person.
Ooh,
that's good.
I like that. Consider that stolen. But you have to get out of that place too of feeling like a failure, where you feel like that there's no hope. you have to change the way you typically react to things. Like I had to completely redo all my thinking and everything of how we always did things.
Now, this is a lifetime. This isn't just, let's just renew the thinking that we've done since we've been together. This is a lifetime of good wisdom, bad wisdom, good choices, just everything piled into this basket called us. And then now we have to bring it all out and separate it and look and try to decipher it all. And when we're trying to do that by ourselves, well, we can't see the issues that we have some of the times. Taught us like that, so we think it's normal. And our spouse sees it and points it out, and we're like, what are you talking about? And it becomes a rub.
Yeah.
But we have 3 tips here that are going to help you.
And so you're going to have to step out of your comfort zone, and you're going to have to put your pride down and put your pride aside or whatever it is and pray about it and say, okay, you know what? I'm going to be the one that at least makes this. We always tell people that if you do end up getting divorced, at least be able to look back and say, we tried everything. I was willing to do this. I did all the things that I could do, and I worked myself out of this marriage. And most of the time, 99% of the time, people that try to work themselves out of marriage will work themselves
out. And guys, I just want to say this, when we say, oh, even if you get divorced, like, oh, that could be an option. Divorce is never an option. Divorce is not the option. Divorce is a symptom of the problem. Our kids are still messed up. They're in their 20s and 30s, and they're still messed up because of divorce. All right,
well,
there's
issues
still
about
issues.
Divorce that still
it clings to them,
problem.
So divorce is not the answer. No. The answer is let's find God. Let's let Him work out these issues in us, and let's help our marriage, and and let's restore our marriage and restore our children, and show them the true love of God.
So the first step is remembering your why. Why did you marry this person in the first place? Some of y'all are like, I don't know. Remembering your why. Why do you want to be married? Is write that down. Write down some things of why did we get together? And then why do I want to stay married? Is it because I want to honor my vows? Is it because we have children and we don't want them to be raised with divorce? Is it because it's too expensive? Is it because I really love this person?
Write down your whys and be very specific. Be specific, okay? And write it all down of everything you can think of. Why?
And I know one of my whys back when we were at this point was that I knew that we were going to be amazing together if we could just get past some of the things that we were dealing with. I knew in my heart of hearts that Richard and God had big things for our life. We had big plans, and the enemy was trying to squelch it. But I just couldn't get him to see that. So I had to be the one to change, and then God worked on him. I didn't have to try to change him. So be really clear of what your why is. Get specific, write it down, and then we want you to save that, because you're going to use that to go back sometimes when you're in that place of darkness or that place of where you feel like there's no hope, that you can look back on that, or you're like, look, I'm out, and read back on that. And
in private, you don't bring it back out and go, look, I just want you to see this is why I'm staying with you.
This is
that's not what it's used
to encourage your own self.
That's right.
It's for you to know what is my why, and why do I want to stay married, and why do I want to make this marriage
because
work?
those whys are real, and I mean, and they're legit.
So number 2 is to stop focusing on your problems.
Ooh.
Biggest one. That was so hard for me because y'all know if y'all listen to any
because
of these videos.
That was me, and you were focusing on me, girl.
Well, I was focusing on our problems, and it seems like you're going backwards when you say, well, how do I not focus on the problems? If the problems would just get fixed, we'd be okay. And that was always my theory and always my thinking, is if we could just fix these problems. So I was constantly telling him what was wrong, constantly pointing out to him what he was doing wrong, how our marriage would be better if this, and this was better. I was blaming him all the time, telling
people.
Doing
like what God told Eve in the Bible, that you're going to try to dominate your husband.
Yeah, I was trying. And I was blaming him for everything, and I was telling everybody that would listen a play-by-play.
And even my family. Yes. Oh, that was bad.
Yeah.
Guess what? They still haven't forgotten. I think they're just getting over that themselves,
But you don't. So stop rehashing the same things with your girlfriends or your family, or the same play-by-play of everything that he or she is doing wrong. And so stop focusing on the problem. Stop rehashing the old things of everything. And I know that just sounds so foreign and it sounds backwards, but if you'll get the focus off of that, get the focus off the problems, put the focus on God, put the focus on
the good things that they're doing.
Of why
the blessing that they're adding to your life. Because that's all we saw in the beginning was all the good stuff that they were doing. But through time, our society has taught us to look at the negative stuff, to find the negative, and let's fix the negative. But I think instead of going and trying to pinpoint the negative, if we start to accelerate the positive, then man, the negative will go away because man, we rise to the expectation of the way we see each other. You know, if she's just walking around telling me you're no good and you're never this and it, well, you know what? I'm going to rise to that expectation. And I'm going to make sure that I don't let her down. I'm going to accomplish that mission. But when she started to say things, I mean, that were foreign to me, she was all like, oh, you're a mighty man of God. You are the husband that I saw that was going to lead this family and love us and care for. And man, she was talking a different language because I didn't know any of these things. You know?
When you speak out those things, call those things that are not as if they were. When you start to edify your spouse, even if you don't even really see it in the natural, you don't see it with your own eyes, you see everything that's wrong or all these problems that have always been these problems. Take a break from those problems and focus on the good, and you'll see how, I promise you, if you take a break for a little bit and stop focusing on the problems, things will start to change.
And don't get disheartened when, is that a word, disheartened?
Hardened.
Disheartened.
Wait, now I can't even say it. Disheartened.
You know?
Hardened.
Because I even speak in ADD. But if you've got a good track going and all of a sudden you start to pour into your spouse and you have 3 or 4 days and then all of a sudden there's some backsliding or he falls or she falls and becomes the person.
Thoughts start
and they'll start
coming to your
being
head.
like, well, I tried for 3 days.
Yeah.
This is a lifetime of trying, you know, till death do us part, for better or for worse. What does that commitment mean? It means for better or for worse. When things, you're going to go through worse a lot before it gets better. And that's why they say for better or for worse. And we need to switch that around.
Yeah, and the Bible says that we're going to go through trials, we're going to go through tribulation, but to be of good cheer. So this is the time whenever you're feeling maybe that little disheartened, like he's talking about, discouraged, like Misty just said, when you start, those thoughts start creeping in, like this is never going to change, it's always been this way, it's been 10 years. That's when we need to pray. That's when we need to take a break and pray. That's when we need to look at that list that we just talked about of why we want to be married and what's our why. Do a dance in the kitchen. I don't know. Go do a chore. Go do a project that you haven't done in a while that you've been needing to do. Read a book. You know, sing a song at the top of your lungs. I don't know. But do something to get that focus off of. It's really all in our head, y'all. It's all in our mind. Like, we can change things by what we imagine and what we call out.
Man, it's all in the power of the tongue, how we speak to one another.
And we need to have self-care. You know, we need to take care of ourselves during that time. Find the joy. There is joy in that situation. It's so easy.
There's so much joy in life. There's so when you do it right. I mean, when you're doing it wrong, it just seems like this is going to be forever. And if God called you home today, man, what a blessing that would be. But as we get older and we start to do things right and things are going good in your life and you see that, man, there is a light at the end of the tunnel and it's not a train, then all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, I need to start eating healthy. I need to work out. I got to drink plenty of water. I want to live. I want to live for a while. I don't want to die yet because God's called us to do too many great things. And we're getting to experience this together as a married couple.
And that's a good analogy, like for marriage too, because that's what we see so much. People are going, and then all of a sudden the train's about to hit, and then all of a sudden they're calling us or they're wanting to meet because now they're willing to do whatever it takes to save their marriage. When if you just would do these things along the way, you don't have to get to that point of the train's about to hit. Number 3 is do a 180. So we've been talking about changing.
I skateboard, man, so I totally know what a 180 is, man.
So
but a 360 is way more cool.
So do some deliberate things to change. Make a 180, like change how you've been doing things. Do the exact opposite of what hasn't been working.
Don't do a 360 because a 360,
you'll be back where
you
you
hear
were.
people say, we did a 360. Well, man, you're just, 360 is this, where you turn all the way around and you're back to here again. Do a 180. And that way, you're doing something different.
So do something different to how you normally react to the worry and to the problems that you guys have. Do something different. Learn how to manage that stress, I guess. People typically react a certain way, one of two ways. One is they become more clingy when they get nervous about their marriage and they think things are, they're either the clingy type where they start to cling more and they're all worried and they're stressed out and I was watching him all the time and trying to see what he was doing and just, I don't know, it was real psycho-y.
Could you say that again? Because I always told you that. She goes, she's psychic. I said, no, she's psycho. But we just did a conference. I just did a conference with Joel Mom. He's on right now. Joel, it was amazing seeing you again, my brother. And I meant to quote one of his famous quotes that he always says. People, there are no marriage problems.
Oh, yeah.
There are people with problems in marriage.
Yes.
And when I heard that, I thought, he's exactly right. There are no marriage problems. It's people with problems being married.
Yes. So if you're that way that you react to the problems in your marriage is to be clingy, again, this is a time to step back a little bit and maybe give that person a little room. Don't be so leechy, you know.
Don't be so extra.
Don't be extra. That's good. Sometimes we need to take us a little step back. If we're that kind of person that feels so overbearing, so we hear that from couples sometimes where they're like, we never get a chance to, like, I never get a chance to miss him. Like, he's always there, or she's like always like right there on top of me. So if you're that person, maybe step it back just a little bit. Maybe that's when you step it back and then you take it to God a little bit and you say, okay, I can't control the situation. Now, the other way people react, the second way, is they become distant and they isolate themselves and they pull back from their spouse, and now they're isolated. So if that's how you normally deal with it, we're doing a 180. Now we're going to press in a little bit. We're going to send a little text during the day, offer to cook dinner, maybe give them a big hug when they come home. Not talk about problems.
Do something different.
Yeah.
Take, like Sherry, when she wanted to take a comedy class, man, I didn't want to do that. I'm like, well, how much is it? Man, I was a miser. Man, I used to be so tight. I was raised with, this is all the money we're ever going to have. We can't let it go. And, you know, that's such a bad mentality to have. But
I don't know if you're in a place like that where, well, I don't know, maybe if you're in a bad place, it depends on, I guess, what the problems are in your marriage, because you might not want to be going to take a comedy class right then. That meant they'd be like...
Well, no, I'm not saying for everybody to take a comedy class, but we did something different that got us out of our normal routine and our normal habit of coming home, arguing, having dinner, going to bed mad. Going to work, coming home, arguing, having dinner, going to bed mad.
We got to focus off ourselves and off our problems, and we started to do some other things outside of that. And it didn't start, I don't think the first thing we did was go take a class, because I don't think either one of us would have been on board, but it was something small. Like, we started putting on the music that we love Dean Martin. That's who we danced to the very first night. I don't even know why, but the first day we met each other was Dean Martin music. And so we still, even though it's way before our time, okay, I know y'all are thinking, oh yeah, that's right, when y'all were in high school. And that's not true. We weren't born yet. But we did listen to that music, and so we would listen to it together. You know, we would listen to it in the kitchen, and it would just kind of, and the kids would be like, that's so gross, you know.
Brandy's on, and I do remember marrying you guys 6 years ago.
That's awesome. All right, so if you are the person, we're doing a 180 at this point. This is step number 3.
Oh, wait, Joel just chimed in. What did he say? Change of pace, change of place.
Equals change of perspective.
That's
good.
That's
a great word, too, is you want to change your perspective about things. So, and you might have to talk to your younger self. I wish I'd known this to do this, was that fear of, I didn't have a fear of abandonment, but I had other fears, and a lot of people do have that fear of abandonment with your spouse, is talk to that younger self, to those insecurities that you have. We all have things from our childhood that are childhood insecurities, so we need to talk to our younger self and talk sweetly to our younger self, tell them that it's going to be okay, and that if you are afraid of abandonment, or you are afraid this person's going to leave, they don't stay by us pressuring them and talking about the problems and just or pressuring them and
why don't you talk to me? Why can't you talk? Why can't you share your heart? Yeah. Why are you so unemotional when it comes to me? I mean, they're not going to all of a sudden go, oh, well, the way, and I didn't respond the way you wanted to.
Yeah.
This time, I will.
Right.
It doesn't work like that.
Light bulb moment.
You know, it doesn't work.
So when you go to talk to your younger self, that's when we need to take those things that are troubling us, instead of putting it on our spouse, is that we take those things to God. All right, so that way God can be, he's our daddy. He can soothe those hurts for us.
I thought I was your daddy.
You're my daddy. That's a different kind. Okay, that's a whole different video. So how y'all doing on that 30-day challenge? Right, we're gonna wait 14 days. We had to add a couple because Richard was out of town, but that's all right. You said we can do. It's a 30-day sex challenge. This is off subject. And you're supposed to do it in 30 days, but you have up to 40 in case you miss some or something happens, but you can't go more than 40. So,
well, that's it. Thank y'all for tuning in. Got to go.
So remember, so the 3 things is, number 1, remember your why. Why do you want to stay married?
Write this. I'm saying don't remember it in your head. Yeah. Write it down so you have something. Because this might be something that you have to look at every day for right now.
Encourage yourself. Yeah. Don't beat yourself up. You're the one that's going to be the catalyst for change. So embrace that. Not go tell him, look, I'm the one changing everything. I'm going to be the one. That's something that you keep to yourself. They're going to say, what's so different about, like, they're doing something different. Richard thought I was poisoning him when I tried this. Okay.
And seriously, all of a sudden she was yelling and screaming at me every day. And the next thing you know, she's feeding me. She's making me dinner every day. She's making me breakfast. She's packing my lunch to go. I'm thinking, she's putting a dose. And then she tells me that one of her friends is a chemist. Remember her? Remember Dawn, the chemist? I'm like, yeah. Oh, she said she could put a drop of this clear liquid in her husband's hamburger, and he would look like he had a natural heart attack. And I'm like, you know, that's scary Jesus. She's trying to scary Jesus.
Scary Jesus. Okay. ADD. Number 1.
OMG.
Remember your why. Number 2 is what? Stop focusing on your problems. Okay. Number 3, do a 180. We're going to do stuff different than the way that we did it before. Examine your motives always. Coming from sarcasm won't work. That is the truth for sure.
That's
so y'all,
right.
this stuff's not easy. It's not easy. We know it wasn't easy for us, but it is simple. It's just simple things, 3 simple steps that you can do that can be the catalyst to change your marriage.
So guys, all these videos we're doing, we're actually doing the work. We actually started doing these things that we're talking about. Because if you're looking at this and you have no hope and you're like, man, think about this. In year 6 or 7, divorce was the option. It was not, we were like, we're getting a divorce. We need to start making this happen. We need to start working towards divorce. So how can you go from feeling of divorce was the only way for us to cope with what we were dealing with?
And almost like we couldn't even stand each other.
I mean, oh my gosh. I mean, I would bring out divorce cards and she's all like, I got some too. I'm not afraid of you. You know,
I learned that from Akintunde.
Right. Yeah, I'm just like, man.
Yep.
But don't give up. All right. You've never heard of a winner. You know, and I don't know if Tiger Woods is a believer or a religious man whatsoever, but he's got the heart of a champion. And yes, you know, everybody makes mistakes. And if we just sit there, oh, look what he did, he should never be forgiven, and it serves him right. Well, man, you know, that's just picking up the rock and throwing it. You know what I mean? But if we look at his heart and you see that, man, he got out and he started playing golf again and again and again and again, and has gone years without winning a major tournament. And then just this last year wins the master. You know, that's the heart of a champion.
Yes.
Guys, y'all all have hearts of champions. Don't quit. Don't give up. There's no victory in quitting, but there is victory in surrendering. We surrender to each other and say, man, God, come in and just heal our marriage and make it everything that it's going to be, even if you have to do it by yourself.
And you know, you hear say this all the time, but it's one of the things that keeps us going, and that is if we had given up,
Oh
we
my
wouldn't miss the
gosh.
blessings that we have
We wouldn't
right
be doing
now.
this right
we
now.
wouldn't be doing this. We wouldn't be able to. We just think about how the enemy's such God. I mean, the devil's such a liar. He's just a liar. And so even if you're going, we just want to encourage you guys. We hope these videos help y'all. It helps us to remember. We actually just kind of gave me an idea that probably next week we need to do one about forgiveness, because it's, you know, you go through all these things, but we're hurting. And it's like, how do you forgive? People ask me all the time. Because some of y'all know we talk, I don't want to say every single testimony, every single video about our life, but we've been through some stuff and stuff that most people wouldn't forgive each other over. But you know what? We chose to repair our marriage and to what's the other word? Not it's a re-word. I don't know. Y'all know I forget my words.
Retreat?
No.
Retreat!
No, repair. It's a word. It's a sweet word along those lines, but it's just we just chose to not get retaliation and not to get revenge, but to repair our marriage.
Right. Well, David, you say I forgive. What you're saying is I choose to give you. Now you're making me do it. I can't remember what it was, and I have it written down.
So y'all have to we'll
That's
tune in
right.
next week. So we'll talk about forgiveness.
You know what? That's good. We'll save it for next
Yes.
week. So tune in
and
next
if
week.
you guys have some
To restore.
to restore. So
That's
we chose
it.
to restore. That's good.
Instead of revenge.
If you guys have some topics that you want us to talk about, you know, we will pretty much talk about anything. So
We're talking about
in our
porn
marriage
in our
class,
marriage
we're talking about
class
marriage class and masturbation. Hi, Michelle. I know she's like, again, like y'all are saying that word, but those are things people are dealing with. And so we're not everybody,
breaking
but a
families
lot of
apart.
people. Yeah.
It's breaking families apart, and it's the one thing that
Yeah.
nobody talks about.
So
And
a lot of things we're
we
gonna
just
talk
thank for our class having grace.
Yes. And so, yeah, we love to come to your church and help you guys talk about the things that are hard to talk about. And our website is therealbrights.com. And we love to come and do marriage conferences and marriage classes, help people get their marriage ministry started. We do comedy date nights. So we do a thing with all of our, kind of our story, but it's got, you know, a comedy. And it's funny now. What else? We have a YouTube channel called The Real Bright. So we really appreciate if you guys can share our videos. That would be the best thing you can do for us. And we're praying for you guys every single day. We believe in you 100%.
Please pray for us.
Yeah, we love you.
Thank you for tuning in. Have a blessed week.
Yep, see ya.